Hello, good evening. Good evening for some Arsenal fans. Welcome to the Premier Football Podcast. This is a quick reaction video to the big news that is breaking tonight. That Tottenham Hotspur have sacked their manager Mauricio Pochettino after 12 games in the Premier League and a dire run of form since the start of the season, which finds them in 14th place, just 3 games won in the league all season, which is really poor, to be fair. And not overly surprised that this has happened, because the drop in form from what they were showing last season. Obviously they finished fourth. They were very close to finishing third. They got to the Champions League final, and so far this season, I mean, they have won decent back-to-back games in Europe against Partizan Belgrade, but they lost 7-2 to Bayern Munich at home, which was a terrible result. I know in that game it did seem that literally every shot Munich took went in kind of towards the end. Their last 3 or 4 goals it was just kind of every shot was flying in, but still, 14th place in November after 12 games played is really poor. So I'm not surprised that it's happened. I don't necessarily think that it's the right call for them to make, and I think that they could have been patient. Maybe there are bigger problems at Tottenham than Mauricio Pochettino. I know that a lot of Spurs fans aren't overly happy with Daniel Levy, and then they're in a situation with players running down contracts as well. You think of Christian Eriksen and Jan Vertonghen as the two main ones that spring to mind. Key players who have been doing the business for them year after year and have contributed significantly for them to become a regular fixture in the Champions League, which of course was something unheard of 10 years ago. You know, they were fighting to kind of becoming 5th and 6th. Before then, they were a mid-table side in the 90s and early 2000s, and it's only really been in recent years under Pochettino, I will add, that they've cemented their place as a Champions League side. And although it really looks like they're going to miss out this year, from how the table is looking, if you think about it, they're 14th in the table, 14 points from 12 games, which is only 3 points behind 5th place Sheffield United. 3 points. It's that tight between 5th and 15th even. Everton are on level points with Tottenham. There's 3 points in it. That could all change, if not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. So I do think that given the caliber of manager that Pochettino is, he's not won anything, but his impact on Spurs has been nothing short of huge. Harry Redknapp did a very good job with them quite a long time ago now. How long? 8-9 years ago, something like that. But then they had Andre Villas-Boas and Tim Sherwood, who neither of which were any good. And Pochettino came in relatively unknown after managing Southampton, struggling with English. He still used an interpreter in all of his interviews, and he made them a regular fixture in the Champions League, and that's never been the case before. I'd love for someone to tell me the last time that Tottenham were in the Champions League year after year after year, because it's been about 4 or 5 years on the bounce ever since he's come in. And as an Arsenal fan, we used to have this running joke saying Totteringham's Day about finishing ahead of Spurs. I think it was 21 years in a row, and Spurs have finished above Arsenal the last 3 years. Whether that will be the case this season, we don't know. I mean, even the year that Leicester won the league and Arsenal finished second, Spurs should have finished second. Spurs should have won the league. They were better than Arsenal. They had the Dele Allis just coming through, playing really, 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 really well. And they lost to Newcastle 5-0, 5-1 on the last day of the season. Already relegated Newcastle, and then Arsenal went into second place. So, for me, Pochettino has been a breath of fresh air for Spurs. He's a real modern coach in the way that he sets up his team, in the demands that he places on his squad is very similar to the likes of Klopp and Guardiola. Obviously, he's not gone out and won anything for Spurs, but at the same time, I think and this is to no way put Tottenham down, and I'm not trying to, but then like look at their recent history. One League Cup and one FA Cup in the last 30 years. Like, and he's come in and I can't think of a time other than the one season under Harry Redknapp where they played with Bale, when he was, you know, he killed Maicon's career, as a lot of people were saying. I think it was 2010-11 season that they were playing Champions League football then. Other than that, never happened in the Premier League era. If it happened in the 80s, someone correct me, because I was born in 92 and my football knowledge of the 80s outside of Arsenal winning at Anfield in 89 and Liverpool dominating the decade is not the best. Like, I wouldn't be able to say where Tottenham finished in every season, but certainly since I've been watching the Premier League, like their only sustained period of competitiveness has been in the last few years. Before they were a bit of a joke. Like, they'd always be one of those teams. I remember years ago they were always kind of 2-0, 2-1 up against Manchester United, and then they go on to lose 4 or 5-2. It happened 2 or 3 years in a row, and Pochettino's completely changed that. He's been a great manager. He's been without doubt the best manager of the Premier League era. He took them to a Champions League final just 6 months ago. Like, they beat Ajax to get there. Ajax were a superb team who ripped apart Juventus, and Tottenham went and beat them in their own backyard under extreme pressure. Like, that was a great result for them. I was obviously gutted, but they deserved to be in the final. They really played very well in that game, and like, Pochettino's been the man behind everything that's been good happening there for quite some time. Under a very tight budget as well. I mean, they didn't make a signing last summer, and I'm sure that he wasn't happy about that. I don't know if that affected other players as well. The fact that they saw a team, regular fixture in the Champions League, not investing in the squad, and they're kind of thinking to themselves, where are we going? Like, what's happening with this team if we're not going to be investing any money like this club? Where's their ambition? The likes of Eriksen and Vertonghen, probably they're not happy with how the club have been managing themselves and been approaching the new season. Obviously, they went out and spent big money on Ndombele this summer, and they brought Lo Celso in on loan, and they spent money on Sessegnon. But to go through, I think it was 3 whole transfer windows in a row without spending any money is pretty strange in this day and age. And yeah, you can say that they had a settled squad, but they weren't exactly Liverpool this year, who could definitely, like, Liverpool's problem is that their starting 11 is so set in stone that anyone who comes in is going to be playing second fiddle. So it's not like that. Like, it's attractive, don't get me wrong. Of course, people want to go to play for Liverpool, but people obviously want to be starting games first and foremost. So it's going to be difficult for Liverpool to attract the really, really, really top brand of player, unless they're going to be told, like, you're going to replace, I don't know, Wijnaldum or something. But they're not going to do that, because he's a really important part of how they play. But yeah, let's have a quick look at the statement that Tottenham have read out. Bear with me, I'm on my laptop. I'm not going to edit this, so like, if I have a longer pause than usual, then it's just because of that. We just wanted to put something out, just to give our 2 cents on the big news of the evening. So BBC are saying that Tottenham have sacked head coach Mauricio Pochettino after 5 years in charge of the Premier League club. He was appointed in May 2014 and led them to the Champions League final last season, where they lost out to Liverpool. Daniel Levy has said that we were extremely reluctant to make this change. It is not a decision the board has taken lightly, nor in haste. Regrettably, domestic results at the end of last season and the beginning of this season have been extremely disappointing. Well, they have been. They also have been for Arsenal. And Arsenal gave Unai Emery, a man who they have no attachment to, a public show of faith, and Manchester United did the same with Solskjaer. Obviously, they have a huge affinity for Solskjaer. He's a club legend. He won them the Champions League final in 1998, and played there for over 10 years. Pochettino, like, you would have thought that he had a real attachment to the Spurs fans had a real attachment to him. I've been really surprised with the anti-Pochettino sentiment that's been coming out in recent weeks on social media. Like I said, for me, he's hands down, he's without doubt the best manager Tottenham ever had in the Premier League era. Like, there's no competition, and you would have thought that given how close it is in that kind of mid-table area, you give him a little bit more time, give him to Christmas to change it around. But like, results haven't been good. They've won just 3 games. They've looked very poor. They don't appear to be working for him as they used to. Is that a fallout of kind of how he manages? Like, the likes of Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola, they're very high intensity. They're so demanding. Pochettino's so demanding as well. And the two managers I just mentioned, they only ever really stay at clubs for 3 or 4 years at a time, because it's just too intense for the players to continue at a content level after that. It just becomes too much. So I don't know if it's the same for Pochettino. We've not seen him manage a club for this length of time before, so there's no comparison to make. Football 365 put out an article on I'm looking for they put out an article on who is going to replace Pochettino, the 6 people they were saying would replace him. I don't find it. Where to next for Pochettino then? Obviously he was linked with the Manchester United job in the summer, but they're sticking with Solskjaer, aren't they? It certainly looks that way. And there are no other high profile, unless Unai Emery gets sacked. I'm not too sure how I feel about that, Pochettino going to Arsenal. He's a good manager, but he's no Sol Campbell, if you know what I mean. Sol Campbell was really, really elite, and I'm not too sure if Pochettino is quite elite. Don't get me wrong, he's very good. He's a very good manager. He's a better manager than Unai Emery, you'd have to say. But like, Spurs fans, who do you think might replace Pochettino? Who do you want? I've seen a lot of talk on Twitter about Julian Nagelsmann from RB Leipzig. Talk is that he wants to see out the project that he started there, and that after that Bayern Munich are going to come calling for him. They have a long-standing appreciation of his talents, and it's a very natural step to go from Leipzig to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich love to fish around in the Bundesliga for the top talents, both in terms of players and managers, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. Let me see if I can find bookies' favourites to replace him. One moment, bear with me. Wonder if Jose Mourinho's in there. I don't think that he... Ooh. The Sun said earlier on today that, not that you should take the Sun seriously at all, ever, that Jose Mourinho is firm favourite to take over. He's listed at 1-6 on Sky Bet, Mourinho. 1-6. I don't see it. Mourinho needs money. Like, obviously he lives in London. That's attractive. I don't see it. Jose Mourinho to Tottenham. Tottenham are not a club where you can get the checkbook out year after year after year, and that's what Jose Mourinho demands. I don't see that happening. Max Allegri is next. They have him at 4-1. I could see that happening. That wouldn't surprise me as much. That'd be a bit of a shift in the way that they play going for either of those two. Rafa Benitez is 5-1. You'd have to think. I love Rafa Benitez. I think he's a fantastic manager, but you'd have to think that he would be just to the end of the season, wouldn't you? Or would they get him on an 18-month deal? I can't see them giving him like a show of faith 50, like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal or something like that. Julian Nagelsmann is at 9-1 after that, then Eddie Howe at 12-1, and the rest are very low odds. Eddie Howe, I could see that. I could definitely see that. He's like, if you think of the likes of Ryan Sessegnon, who came up from a lower ranking club, a less high profile club than Tottenham, English talent. They love buying English talent. They love promoting English talent. They're very well known for doing that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Eddie Howe went there. I don't know how we do. Like, again, to talk about my own club, I would never be a fan of Eddie Howe going there. I just don't think. I think Arsenal need a real elite level manager. I don't know if Tottenham do. Tottenham would probably be able to manage without a real elite manager. I don't think that the problems at Tottenham are as deep as the problems at Arsenal, despite the fact that there are numerous players, key players, who are running their contracts down. I don't think they are. But anyway, listen, I should wrap things up here. It's been very nice to put out this video. Mad. Tottenham sacking Mauricio Pochettino, their best manager in the Premier League era, after 5 years, just 6 months after taking them to the Champions League final, but they currently sit joint 15th in the Premier League after 12 games on November 19th on just 14 points, albeit 3 points off 5th place. Thanks very much for watching, guys. This has been the Premier Football Podcast. I am Joe, and we'll both be back. Both Rafe and I are putting out more content this week. This was just a quick reaction video to the big news of the evening. Mauricio Pochettino sacked as manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Have a good evening, guys.